And moving on to your work, of which there is an ocean out there. And if I may just say, I'm really excited to read all the 20 volumes that you're going to write. I will start by asking you, could you please kindly summarize in perhaps 10, 12 minutes or so, most of all, for all Western viewers out there, what is the true story of Bharat and Sanatan Dharam? What is our real story, and what is it that we really stand for?
So this is a very exciting question. What is the story of Bharat? I've called it the Indian grand narrative. I defined that term, and that is the story of Bharat. The story of Bharat is not only the past; it's also our future. So that's another thing that we should know about. And when I talk about the Indian grand narrative, it's not only the history of what happened in India; it's also the Indian influence on the rest of the world, which is why we've written a 14-volume series on the history of Indian science and technology. It's about the export of mathematics and astronomy and philosophy. Uh, some of my books that are in the pipeline are about how the West has digested a lot of Indian ideas and U-turn and characterized them as something different. But I've been researching this for over a quarter century, and I'm going to publish a lot of it. So the Indian past has played out worldwide, not just in India. It's not the Indian grand narrative is not limited to geographical and political boundaries. It's a lot of the grand narrative happened in China and in Japan and Mongolia and in parts of the Middle East and Central Asia and Europe and so on. So the Indian narrative, the narrative of Bharat is not geographically limited. It's not limited by time, that it's all about past only, because it's also very futuristic.
Mhm.
And this narrative is the primary the foundation of this narrative is the open architecture and ongoing discovery by human beings, not frozen in time by some history. So the narratives of other people are some event happened, which is recorded in a certain one book, and it happened in this geographical area to certain people, and then you have to just go on studying that history of that one thing that happened, whether it is to Jesus or whether it is to Muhammad or whatever, or to Moses. It's a certain historical event which is very unique. But what is amazing about our narrative is that it's open, it's ongoing. It's rishi after rishi discovering, none of them saying it's final, none of them saying I'm the last one, none of them saying you denounce the other ones. It's like scientists who go on discovering things, and the rishis never said that there won't be a better another superior view in the future. Never said that. So this is why this openness allowed us has allowed our tradition to flow, and new discoveries come. So these discoveries are called shrutis. These discoveries, which are the highest level discoveries in a state of consciousness, are shrutis, and the Vedas are the shrutis. But then, unlike the books of other traditions that are frozen, this is the complete book. This is what it doesn't say in this book. You cannot bring that in our case. We also have smritis. The smritis are texts that are written over time. They keep changing. So all the politics, all the constitution of a country is a smriti. All the discoveries, scientists made a discovery, but then they may refute it. It may change next day. It's a particular point of view. It's a smriti.
Mhm.
All the ideas of Nyaya and philosophy and Jyotish and Ayurveda and those kind of things, they're all smritis. So the knowledge systems that are evolving over time, that are open, are smritis. So
Mhm.
this gives you the human laboratory of discovery is the rishi, and everybody has that capacity. Since everybody is Sachitanand, everybody has the capacity of self-realizing, self-actualizing the rishi in them, the rishi potential, and then becoming a discoverer, and then developing more and more ideas that come out of that. It is not that you have to bow to a book or an institution or some authority and say, okay, that's the limit. Certainly, I bow to the gurus because they get me going and they get me started. But that doesn't mean that I'm limited to what they have taught me.
Mhm.
Our tradition is full of, somebody going beyond what he learned from the gurus, challenging the gurus. arguing with them, and advancing the knowledge even beyond. So one of the great reasons I wrote this, we sponsored this multi-volume series on history of science and technology, is to show the moving nature, the evolving nature, whether it's metallurgy, whether it's textiles, whether it's medicine. Knowledge in India has not been fixed and frozen. So when people think that Indian knowledge, to give a tribute to Indian knowledge, you don't need to be innovative. You just need to go back and parrot what was written. That's not true. Indian knowledge requires that you learn from what has happened and then you take it forward. Even Manusmriti, Manu himself says that all this stuff I'm writing about society, you think of it as social science, Manusmriti. So all this stuff that I'm writing about society it has to be put in context and place. In a different place, it may be different rules, different things that are appropriate. What's appropriate in the north may not be appropriate in the south. What's appropriate in one community may not be appropriate in another community. What's appropriate in one period of history, one time, one moment in context may not be for another one. Manu himself says that. So this business of freezing Manusmriti as sort of the codified laws of Hindus is not what Manu himself wanted. So there is this dynamic quality that Smritis have that is from the premise that we are discoverers. We are constantly discoverers. So I'll give you a new vocabulary because I'm right now into the artificial intelligence. Okay, so in artificial intelligence, there's something called artificial intelligence is based on the idea of machine learning. So these are machines that are learning from experience. And the experience is given to them in the form of data, examples, and that's called big data. So big data is the example that is fed to the machines, and the machines are deep learning, neural networks, all of that stuff to become smarter and smarter. So it learns to drive a car and become better and better at it, or it learns to do facial recognition and it can recognize better and better. So this learning part is the basis of machine learning, which is the foundation of artificial intelligence. Our philosophy says that humans are like that too. In fact, machine learning is trying to replicate humans. Humans are not fixed knowledge. We are always learning. So a civilization is also a machine learning. In an analogy, a civilization is learning system, constantly new experiences, new things being tried, like big data. All the experiences that a civilization has and it uses to come up with rules and policies and the latest knowledge, that's all big data. You can think of it as big data. So think of Manu. Manu is a person who goes around looking at the cultural and social practices of people in various communities and comes up with a codified, systematized set of rules and principles to encapsulate what's going on. He never says, this is my original proposition. He says, this is how people are doing. He never says this is fixed in time. It has to evolve. Maybe 100 years later, some other Manu has to come up with do a survey and do an examination of society and come up with rules, come up with principles, come up with recommendations. And these have to be aligned with the Smriti, with the Shruti. They have to be aligned with the Vedic philosophy. So the Vedic philosophy as a kind of foundation and being applied all the time and reapplied for newer and newer experiences. So think of Vedic foundation as sort of like the basic assumptions and premises of the machine learning system. If you think of society as a machine in a sense, just as an analogy. So if the Vedas are the substratum of Indian civilization, and then the civilization is a machine learning system that is using all the experiences of what's going on as big data and becoming smarter and smarter and getting enhanced. So if you model Bharatiya society in this way, it's a very advanced, progressive model, very consistent with and very futuristic, consistent with the latest thinking in artificial intelligence. So you see, we have to reimagine in the age of AI. We have to reimagine Bharatiya civilization as a very intelligent, learning entity. It's a being. That the civilization is a being, like the machine is trying to behave like a being, but it's not really a being, but it's trying to, that's why the word artificial is there. So, but in the case of civilization, is real being with humans and minds and all that, and it is learning. Okay, and its learning is far more sophisticated than the machine learning.
Mhm.
So the machine learning, to understand machine learning, will lead you to a reimagined, a new approach to thinking about Bharatiya civilization.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.